Hi, my name's Jason Debley. Tonight's whiskey review is, as promised in my last review, Alberta Premium Cask Strength Rye. So this whiskey has acquired a lot of attention because Jim Murray in his Whisky Bible has declared that Alberta Premium Cask Strength Rye is the best whiskey in the world. Jim Murray has come under fire and criticism, rightfully so, because other reviews in his Whisky Bible are, without a doubt, sexist and vulgar. And it's unfortunate that he chooses to write in that style, and he unfortunately does not acknowledge that he's a sexist and that his reviews are really offensive, and instead claims that he's exercising his right to free speech and that he's a professional writer writing to a professional or to an adult audience. Hopefully Jim Murray will apologize and maybe change his ways, because Murray, love him or hate him, has developed a lot of excitement and drawn a lot of attention to whiskey as a spirit to consume. And it's too bad that he writes in this fashion. Hopefully he'll change. If you want to see those exact reviews that were quite vulgar, check out Becky Paskin, Paskin, on Twitter, and she has links to all of it. I bought this whiskey because Murray said it was the best in the world, and I get a lot of email. People want to know what I think about it. So the review, his declaration came out in the media on a Thursday afternoon last week, I recall. I immediately went out and bought a bottle. By Friday, it was sold out across the province where I live. It's unbelievable the marketing power or the influence this guy carries. So that's why I'm reviewing it. In the future, until he changes his ways and apologizes, I won't review what he declares to be the best whiskey of the world. Enough of that. Let's talk about it. Alberta Premium is a brand owned by Alberta Distillers. They're located just outside Calgary. I think they're in an industrial park in a very automated, machine-based distillery, like many distilleries. And they produce an enormous amount of whiskey each year. I think about 6 million liters is for domestic consumption in Canada, and then another 14 million is exported to the United States and other countries. And Alberta Distillers 100% rye often ends up rebranded in the US like Whisky Pig. They are purportedly the supplier for Whisky Pig, among other brands. So, a little note about that. The other thing is, this whiskey, as you know, is cask strength. And I thought we should have a little explanation about what cask strength means. Cask strength means not the whiskey that comes right out of, at the end of the distillery process, the heart that's cut out by the distillery workers and then put into casks. Cask strength is not distillery output, but it's rather what comes out unadulterated from the cask. So typically, whiskey that comes out of the still will have an alcohol by volume range of 68 to 72%. It then goes into casks, and each year the ABV declines because of evaporation and what we call angel's share. And then at some point, the whiskey is withdrawn from the cask and then bottled, but usually before it's bottled, they add some water to standardize the alcohol by volume level. In the case of this, it was in a barrel, in many casks, where it acquired flavor from the barrel and whatever it held previously. And it also acquires color. And the ABV would have come down a little bit, but not much. The alcohol by volume on this is 65.1%. And I would contend that nobody should drink this straight, and that it's not really intended to be consumed neat. You have to add water. The question is, how much water? For me, I like my whiskeys generally between 43 and 45% alcohol by volume. So with a cask strength whiskey, there's a little bit of guesswork to get that alcohol by volume flavor zenith that you want. And for me, generally with this, I had to experiment. It's 2 parts whiskey, 1 part water. And in order to ensure I do that, I have, I'm going to put 2 parts whiskey and then 1 part water. A little bit less than there. You have to add water. So I'm bringing it down to roughly around 43, 44% if my math is right. Okay, the nose is still powerful with the addition of the water. But the nose is very nice. It's perfumed. Obviously you're noting some rye, toasted rye bread, vanilla, apple. Okay, the nose is complex, it's interesting, and on the palate, it's powerful, even with the addition of water. Woo! Coriander, chewy cedar, really spiced. This is quite spicy. Cloves, nutmeg, real chewy toffee, butterscotch. Kind of a charred caramel. Banana bread. It's got a burnt toast, caramel drizzled kind of note to it. Let's talk about what we're left with after we taste this. What's the finish? Gingerbread. You know those Valentine candies, those hot cinnamon hearts, little red hearts that you might give to your loved one? Chew on those. That's what you're getting on the finish. Even after I swallow it, there's still quite an afterburn, but not in a bad way. It's nice. There's some complexity here, but it's not complexity like you would encounter with single malt scotch. Single malt scotch is made from malted barley, totally different grain than what is used here. This is 100% rye grain used to make this whiskey, and rye delivers a different flavor profile, which is spicy, obviously notes of rye bread, you know, again, butterscotch, caramel, gingerbread, those type of notes. There's a real kitchen spice to this, of cloves, allspice, nutmeg, like really powerful cloves. I'm going to do a video on how to taste whiskey and how to identify flavors. It's really simple. Go to the grocery store and buy bottled spices for cooking, like coriander, allspice, you know, nutmeg, cloves especially. A lot of cloves here, very spicy. It's good. Is it incredible? No. Is it the best whiskey in the world? Not in my opinion. I'm not a big rye guy. I mean, I like malted barley. I like single malt scotch. My favorite whiskeys in the world tend to be classic Speyside or stereotypical Speysides that are honey, rosewater, tend to be lighter, and I also like Japanese whiskey like Hibiki, 17-year-old or 21-year-old, Craigenmore, Glenmorangie, Nectar d'Or, 12-year-old, that kind of stuff. And I also like port and sherry finishes. This is totally a different beast, a totally different animal. If you like American whiskey, you'll like this. Not expensive, too. It's only like $62 Canadian, if you can find a bottle. Really, for $62, you're getting cask strength whiskey. It's good value for money. I like it. Do I love it? Would I buy another bottle? No. And that's all I gotta say. Jim Murray, be a better man, be a better person, and apologize. And write without insulting people and women. Take care. Sorry to be preachy. I don't like other whiskey vloggers who are quite pedantic and preachy, and I try to avoid it. Whiskey should be inclusive of everybody. You don't need to be rich. You don't need to be white or black or a woman or a man to appreciate it. It's for everybody. Right now on my whiskey channel, about 95% of my viewers, according to Google stats, is men. But there is a component of women who are growing on my channel and hopefully on other channels. And I know a lot of women at whiskey festivals who love whiskey. And I think we want to develop that. The only other thing I would say about whiskey in general is that I'm rather disappointed by how it has this snobby air to it. Like, I like cigars, and I don't know if you ever go to a cigar convention or go to a cigar bar. People are very down to earth and easygoing. Doesn't matter what walk of life you're from, In Scotch whiskey, especially Scotch whiskey, it's just, if you haven't, I've had so many people put me down saying, well, you haven't been to Scotland, you haven't been to the distilleries, how can you possibly evaluate a whiskey? And I would say, evaluating a whiskey is like evaluating a car reviewer on YouTube or any other channel or in a magazine. They haven't been to the Mercedes factory, they haven't been on that junket. But they can evaluate the driving experience of a Mercedes versus a BMW versus a Pontiac or whatever. And I am evaluating the taste experience. And the taste experience of Alberta Premium is good. Not for me great, because I'm more of a stereotypical Speysider guy. But if you like American whiskey, if you like heavy rye, you like spice, caramel, butterscotch, this is your thing. You don't need to go to Calgary, Alberta to see their automated factory in order to make that declaration. Take care and be safe.